Where Kindness Lives is designed to cultivate a kinder world by helping to inform and inspire. Hosted by Jennie Sager from Nextdoor, the neighborhood network connecting you to what truly matters so you can belong. We'll chat to the most thought-provoking individuals paving the way for positive change and hear from neighbors who deliver small acts of kindness every day. So come on a journey to where kindness lives.
And what a journey Series 2 has been. You know, thinking back to Season 1 when we just kicked it off in a tiny little bedroom, moved into a podcast studio, recorded guests all over the world. We've had so much fun. It's been a great ride, and we are so excited. From all of us here at Where Kindness Lives, thank you for listening and spreading kindness to all of your neighborhoods around the world. It's been an amazing season of guests, so let's revisit some of the best moments from this year. Cricket is a truly global sport, and international cricketer Brett Lee is adored no matter where the game is played. Not only for his competitive spirit, bowling thunderbolts as a fast bowler.
That is quick. Wow. That is seriously quick.
But as we discovered, for being a top bloke off the field. He was full of surprises, especially the story that made him a Bollywood music star.
I know I'm different, I'm not from here, I'm just another guy. With blonde hair though, it's hard to hide, I think I caught your eye.
That's enough. You don't lose all your listeners.
All right, tell us a little bit about that. That is Brett singing on You're the One for Me. How'd that come about? What happened here? Are you still singing?
2006, we just come back from cricket training, walking in, where was I, Mohali up north, and this gentleman yelled out. So imagine when you're playing with the Australian cricket team in India, as you know, there's people everywhere, 1.5 billion people. So walked in through the hotel foyer, and there's fans there, and they want autographs and stuff because the Australian cricket team are on tour and blah, blah, blah. And this gentleman goes, Brett, and he pulled me over and he goes, we're doing a collaboration with a very famous Indian singer who you would have never heard of. Her name's Asha Bhosle. I said, of course I've heard of her. She's a legend. He's like, really? He's like, okay, we'd love you to be involved. I said, well, because she's like the Aretha Franklin of India. I'm like, of course I want to be involved. I said, who's she working with and what's the collaboration and what are you trying to achieve? And they said, oh, you know, we're doing stuff with Sanjay Dutt and blah, blah, blah from Bollywood and this guy from Bollywood. And Robbie Williams. I went, what, from England? They went, yeah, we're doing like a retake on Angels. I said, well, if Robbie's in, I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do I have to do? They said, come down to the studio tomorrow, just sing your guide vocal, and that's it. So I took his details down. I said, look, I'm super keen. We're playing cricket in 2 days' time. I have to sneak, because we were in a bubble back then too. We weren't allowed to go out. I said, look, I'd have to sneak out, because I didn't want to tell anyone I was going to go and do a music sort of song or, a film clip or whatever. And I went upstairs, got my guitar, wrote this that cheesy love song in 18 minutes, rang up the gentleman called Shamir Tendon, and I said, I've got the song. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I just wrote a song. Let's hear it. So play the song. He goes, brilliant, done. And I'm like, okay, well, what happens now? And he goes, well, come down. And so I went down, I put the track down, and I said, it'd be really cool if I sang the whole part in English up to the end, and then me have a crack in Hindi at the end. And if Usher sang her whole part in Hindi, and at the end she can have a go in English. He's like, brilliant. So did the song. We had to win that next day, because if we lost the next day, the tour was over, we go straight home. I'm like, we've got to win, because I've got to go, because there was talk about doing a film clip because she was based in Mumbai.
Yeah.
So we won that next day.
Hold on. Did anyone on the team know?
No one had a clue.
No, okay, all right.
So I snuck out. I snuck out of the team hotel. And if I would have got, found, I would have been probably kicked off the tour. Wasn't through COVID bubble. It was just like a security bubble. Yeah. So we won. We then go to Melbourne. I then sneak out again to go and do a film clip for 2 hours with Asha Bhosle. And that was it. Just did it for fun. 6 weeks later, my manager at the time said, your song's debuted at number 6 in India. And I'm like, this is a G-up. And then went to number 1. I was like, no way. So my claim to fame is that I've got a number 1 song in India, cheesy, rubbish, horrendous love song I wrote in 18 minutes. But to go to the ground and play IPL and hear half of the crowd where I was down on the side of the field singing Hame Tumhara Hun, Tumhara Hero Hun, which means, yes, I'm yours, I'll be yours forever. I laugh, I pinch myself, and I just think, how the hell did this happen?
Oh my gosh, when's part 2 coming out? Come on, we need a follow-up.
Well, it's funny because all my mates were sledging me going, that's a rubbish song, it's horrendous. I'm like, yeah, but they love it, you know? And
Well,
how many number one hits have you got mucking around?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it did also lead to An Indian, the movie, didn't it? They kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it did. So, look, I think with India, you know, the fact I've tried to learn a bit of the local language, and that's just to be kind and polite, and that's obviously what we're here for today, is all about kindness and everything. And for me, if I'm a guest in their country, to learn a bit of the local language, to say thank you, to greet them, and then to do a song, get involved with Bollywood, do a film which was based in Australia but went over to India. The fact that you're actually, you're trying to make an effort in their culture, that's when you get that love back.
Imagine the enormity of having your signature printed on U.S. currency, let alone being the first female to do so. Enter former federal treasurer Rosie Rios. If you're listening to this in America, take out a bill and chances are you'll see Rosie's name on it. Rosie's chat was so inspiring, but the rise to the top was filled with many challenges. I do want to just ask you a little bit more about you leading the initiative to put the very first woman on the face of the U.S. currency, as you mentioned. Why was that specifically so important to you? Why did you feel like that really was something that you needed to get done?
You know, when you look at something for a while and you start to see a pattern develop, and so I was looking through all these concepts, I realized that every single image that I came across of a man was a real man. So, a cabinet member, a president, a founding father. But every single image that I came across of a woman was not a real woman. They were allegorical, like Lady Liberties, sometimes clothed and sometimes not clothed. And so I did a little bit of homework back then. I realized at that time, this was actually December of 2008, that there were almost 30 countries who had women on their currency. And I couldn't, and I realized, oh my gosh, we've never, ever had the portrait of a woman on our Federal Reserve notes. We did have Martha Washington on the silver certificate, way back when, over 100 years ago. But nothing on our Federal Reserve notes. So I just thought that, how could that be that if we are kind of the spirit of democracy, how could we be missing half the population in terms of how we institutionalize our history on these products, right? So if you go around the world, you usually see a very important person on the front of a piece of currency, and on the back is usually some edifice, a monument, an activity. And so, this is how we tell our stories. And we are 51% of the population, and if all these other countries were honoring their history, including women, as one of the leaders of the free world, how could we not be doing the same thing?
This podcast is brought to you by Nextdoor, the world's largest neighborhood network. Most of you know that, of course, but many wouldn't know that our HQ is in the Tenderloin neighborhood in San Francisco, which is one of the most challenging areas in America for its homelessness, crime, and drug problems. But it also has a rich, endearing history of culture and community, which is exactly why we set up here, as Nextdoor CEO Sarah Fryer explained in episode 5.
So we were looking for space right ahead of the pandemic. Ironically, we were living in a kind of a very tech hub building, along with another social media platform who shall remain nameless. And I really felt it was doing bad things to our culture, frankly, just getting in the elevator every day. I will not name names, but let's just say at around 4:30, it was not a good time to try to leave the building because they were all leaving the building and you couldn't get back in again. And that was not the culture I wanted, like a high-performing team. So we went out to look, and we had options, right? We had this beautiful building we're sitting in right now that was being developed in the Tenderloin. But there was also, Salesforce Tower, that gorgeous, big glass edifice that's downtown. There were other beautiful, very pristine, kind of what you'd expect of a tech company. And why we chose this, and I give full credit to Brian Power, our head of people, and Vaughn, our amazing head of facilities, was because we felt it truly reflected the soul of Nextdoor, because it was gritty. Like, you step outside the building, it's totally gritty, and you actually understand why it's so important to do what we do. Because if communities aren't healthy, they really start to degrade quite quickly. And to your point, you end up with people who are unhoused, not through their own choice in any way. You have drug problems. It's really hard to look out the window here and not feel like, oh my God, our work is not done. And then you meet neighbors like Glide who uplift you in the other way, where you think about what it must have been like starting Glide back when it was more oriented around the church, when you had the choir coming every Sunday, then they start to feed people. And today when we do our Next Door in the Neighborhood moments, which is kind of our twice a year when we do some volunteering, when I go down to Glide and help manage the lunch, I'm literally just handing out boxes, or I've put like the fried chicken in the box, and fried chicken day is a really big day. Just the impact that you're having, and it's very not typical of who you might expect. It's literally someone that just looks like your grandmother who's come to get the free lunch, and you really think like, wow, okay, there's a lot of need out there you're very blind to. And by living in it, again, it refills my bucket certainly of passion and energy to do what I do every day, and then hopefully inspire everyone at Next Door to keep doing what we're doing.
And of course, literally across the road in the Tenderloin is social justice organization Glide, which is an iconic San Francisco institution and does incredible work to help those in need. Whether it's the thousands of meals they hand out each day to the support programs to help those who have fallen on tough times, I loved this conversation with the charismatic Marvin K. White and his right-hand woman, Jean Cooper.
Are the people that are out on the street that you're serving in the morning same people that come into the church? Are they different?
Yeah, they're both different and the same. So we have a table we set outside every Tuesday. It's our prayer table, and it's something we just have been doing about a year this time. And we transcribe the prayers of the folks who are in line for food. Dozens of prayer slips every day come in, and we bring those prayers into our prayer group circle. And if you want to know how this community is doing, the best way is to read their prayer request. And it is not only for food, housing, clothing, but it's for joy, it's for safety, it's for family. And we have several tracks of church. We have a couple sanctuaries. We have our big sanctuary here, which is mostly folks of privilege who come. And then we have a Freedom Hall downstairs sanctuary where folks with their belongings can come in who don't feel comfortable or don't even want to come up here, because we have a big screen TV, we do a simulcast, we serve coffee and donuts, and they can charge their phones and they can have their stuff with them, and that is church. They could be in the middle of mental health crisis, they can walk around, they can just do what they need to do to be comfortable. And we bring the two together. We talk about the other parts of this community, that this community of folks who come into this sanctuary step over to come into the sanctuary. So we make sure that we connect folks of privilege to folks who are suffering every Sunday.
Where Kindness Lives will be back in a flash.
Everyone is feeling the pinch with rising costs of living, and socialization is becoming a luxury. But connecting with your neighbors is free, and scientific research shows it can actually reduce financial stress and improve mental health and well-being. Nextdoor is 100% free and is a safe and easy way to find like-minded people in your local area to grab a coffee with, go for a walk, join a book club, or simply say hello. Download the Nextdoor app or go to nextdoor.com today.
Imagine writing a novel just from your experience on Nextdoor. Could you do it? Well, that's exactly what New York Times bestselling author Tara Conklin set out to do. But as she discovered, the old adage, "Don't judge a book by its cover," played true, and the result was a neighborhood hit.
Every single day, right there on Nextdoor was like enough drama and pathos and tragedy and humor and humanity to fill, a novel every day of the week. So I really thought it would be fun and just a kind of a narrative challenge to write a novel just with Nextdoor posts. So like have the entire action of the plot come out in the posts. And I started to write that, and then COVID happened. And I had 3 kids, remote schooling at home 24/7. We all thought, what the hell is happening? The world is falling apart. and so I stopped writing. I mean, I just didn't have the kind of the bandwidth for it. And I thought, my God, who wants to read a novel when like the world is falling apart? Like but after a little while, after a few months of like quarantine and stress and anxiety and all of the stuff that we were all going through, I went back to that project. And first of all, I needed to laugh. I really wanted to make myself, giggle again. And I also was recognizing in a very profound way just how important community was in my everyday life and for my kids and for my friends. And to have it just suddenly and completely withdrawn was very, it was really, really hard for everyone. And so my take on the material kind of shifted, and it was less about sort of this narrative, fun task of telling a story through Nextdoor, and really more of a love letter to community. And so that's kind of what the book became.
If I say Dorinda, most people know exactly who I'm talking about. That's right, it's Real Housewives of New York star and author of Make It Nice, Dorinda Medley. We at Nextdoor love this candid and funny chat so much that we made 2 episodes, so picking a highlight was really hard. There were just too many. Let's take a listen to where Dorinda talks about her Make It Nice movement, where she does an act of kindness every single week.
The week's almost over.
Yes.
Have you done it yet this week?
I did it. You know what I did the other day? I went to, it's a small thing, but the boy that was working there was so nice. So I am a big McDonald's person. I love McDonald's. I allow myself McDonald's once a month. I have the app. It's one of the best apps you'll ever get because they have all kinds of free stuff on it. And I go for growing up in a big family with no money, I go for everything free. So if there's a free option, I will get it. Okay. Hannah's like, you study those CVS coupons like you're going to Harvard. I'm like, wait a second. Okay. So they had Happy French Fry. It was French Fry National Day. Yes. And on your app, you got a code and you can go get a free French fries, a large French fry. So of course I put myself in the car, picked up my mother, and off we went to the McDonald's. And I got my free French fries. And when I pulled up to the thing, I gave him $20. He said, no, it's free. I said, no, that's for you.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And the kid, he said, really? He said, man, that is so nice. He said, that really means a lot to me. Do you know that? Almost to a point where I thought he was going to cry. I was like, well, don't cry over 20. Let me give you 100, and then maybe we can shed a tear, right? But it was just that moment of him. He just changed.
Yeah. Well, and he probably paid it forward later in the day of the week also.
So hopefully now when the next person comes to the drive-through, he's a little happier. Yeah. Maybe he'll go home and tell his mother the story. Yeah. And it made me feel so good.
It does. It makes the person doing the act feel just as good as the person receiving it.
Of course, this podcast also sheds some light on the kind acts from neighbors which normally go unnoticed until now. This series, we started the kind shout-out. And during our conversation with cricketer Brett Lee in episode 1, a very famous neighbor who used to drive a big red car called in to give Brett a shout out. Yep, we're talking about the original Yellow Wiggle, Mr. Hot Potato himself, Greg Page.
G'day, Binger. How are you, mate?
Hello, Page. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, really well, mate. Yes, I must say you are one kind neighbour. You're a good guy, mate.
You're a good man, mate. I've polished that red car a few times for you, mate. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, and bring the rubbish in for me. You do so many good things.
How does a wiggle become friends with a cricketer anyway, Greg?
Oh, well, it's funny because when you're a musician and you love cricket, and when you're a cricketer who loves music, you find common passions. So Binger and I hit it off. We've known each other, I don't know, 23 years or something.
Yep. It's been a long time, and I remember it was at the SCG we caught up and. We're talking about cricket, talking about music, and we're both obviously massive Elvis Presley fans as well. So going over to Paige's house and had the pleasure to drive Elvis Presley's last car, didn't we, Paige?
Yeah, the Cadillac, yeah. Yeah, it was great,
mate. Oh, my gosh, that is crazy. All right, Brett, favorite Wiggle song. Let's hear it.
Well, it's funny when you've got the kids that have all come through. I know most of the songs from the Wiggles. I could play Hot Potato, could play Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car, the whole thing. And it's funny. We've had a couple of nights with some close friends with their kids, and the kids go to bed, and here we are after a couple of beverages singing the Wiggles tunes. And the kids are asleep, so just goes to show how catchy it was.
On a serious note, though, you guys have both shared an experience that was really, really hard to take in. Obviously, Greg with your own cardiac arrest, and Brett, you were witness to some pretty scary situations. How did you two come about and start working together?
Yeah, well, look, after I survived a sudden cardiac arrest, I started up a charity called Heart of the Nation. And, not too long after I started up that charity the same year, Binger, you were in a situation where you needed to do CPR. And really that common experience, although the outcomes were different in both situations, I remember talking to Brett just after he had to do CPR on a very close friend. He made a commitment to help support me with my mission with Heart of the Nation to get more people in Australia to learn how to do CPR and to have a go. And Bing has been a great friend over the years, and now he's a great ambassador trying to help spread this message and this, support the cause, which I'm extremely grateful for.
Did you know that military families relocate to a new neighborhood every 2 to 3 years? And more than 70% of them live in civilian communities, with nearly half not feeling a sense of belonging. Enter Blue Star Families, America's largest organization helping members of the military and their relatives stay connected and supported. So, a partnership with Nextdoor was a match made in heaven. We're really excited to talk to Kathy Roth-Duquet today. Kathy's the founder and CEO of Blue Star Families. Welcome to Where Kindness Lives.
I'm delighted to be here, Jenny. Thanks for having me. In my own family, we moved 9 times in 16 years. So think about that, and we're not moving on to bases usually. We're moving into communities. So that means you have to figure out, what's the school district I want my kids to be in? What's that location be? How long is the commute going to be for my spouse? Am I going to work, and how am I going to get to where I am? Figuring that out sometimes in very short order. And then how am I going to make this place seem like home? Also in short order. And then knowing I'm going to have to pick up and do it again. So, there's a military kid when we were talking about this once, what does resilience mean? And he said, in my family, resilience is a 3-word sentence: suck it up. In the 21st century, we need a little bit more than that in terms of comfort and success,
Definitely. Well, and there's that famous saying that, marriages, deaths, and moving are the 3 most stressful things in life. And so when you think about this segment of the population moving that many times, that's a lot of stress, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And the wonderful thing is that as big as the stress is, there's a really simple and wonderful solution to it.
Well, is that personal experience that really sparked the idea to create Blue Star Families?
Jenny, it really was. And the interesting thing about that is that although it was a real struggle for me, and I always worked and I always had a big network, but then, I found myself lonely a lot, because you move to a place where you're brand new and you don't have family and friends, and you have young kids to take care of, and your husband leaves to a place that you can't reach him. It can be lonely, but it took me a while after we were running Blue Star Families, which I started kind of for my neighbors. Like, I saw what my neighbors went through, which in some ways I felt like it was tougher than what I went through, because I was older and had more resources. But, after a couple of years, I realized these were my challenges too. Sometimes I think we push away that those are our challenges, but realizing that actually that was hard and it was sad.
In her early 30s, avalanche rescuer Susan Purvis lost her way. Navigating through her lostness was a story of inspiration and optimism when a Labrador pup helped save her life, and as it turned out, countless others too.
When I was in ski patrol school, I learned about an avalanche that had crashed down across the street and buried 3 toddlers. Can you imagine you're on ski vacation in Colorado and your kids are out playing in the snow waiting for the shuttle bus to bring them back to Texas, and at 9 a.m. there's bluebird day, and a wall of snow comes down and buries your kids.
Oh my gosh.
And we're like, they're gone like a tsunami.
Crazy.
And everybody rallied, people grabbed pool hooks and, hockey sticks, whatever they had to start probing the snow. Well, I was hearing the story from ski patrollers, and then they said, well, we had a trained avalanche dog, so we brought him over to the scene. And I'm like, oh, wow. It's like the first time I'd heard about avalanche dogs. And I'm like, what'd the dog do? Did the dog find him? And the guy's like, nope, he didn't find him. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's trained. Isn't that the dog's only job? And I kept saying, wait, this story's not over yet. How come that dog didn't find the humans? And his answer he gave me wasn't good enough. And I thought, what if I got a dog and trained it to save lives? And in that moment, I vowed to never leave anyone behind.
Oh my gosh.
It was also the same year I said to my husband, till death do us part. Going through life, keeping a promise, and then there's some promises you just can't keep. But I'll tell you right now, I kept the dog promise. We never left anyone behind, and we really rose to the top of our game, and we were the team that law enforcement called for, water, wilderness, avalanche, and homicides.
Wow, what an incredibly inspiring and talented group of guests we had this year. Kindness really does rise and empower those to do good in their communities around the world. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us in Series 2. The good news is that we're coming back in 2024 for Series 3, and I cannot wait to share more motivational stories and takeaways that you can bring home to your neighborhood. From everyone here at Where Kindness Lives and the wider Nextdoor family, we hope you have a wonderful festive season, and we'll see you in the new year. Stay kind.